Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. The Counter Cult Podcast has found its way into the Fox Den. Yes, it is always good to link up with Rick and Maddie and Outlaw for an episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yet please allow me to feed. Absolutely delicious. And now that I am fully revamped and ready to stalk the vermin known as the Dogman, it is time for the Counter Cult Podcast and myself to take a walk into the darkness.
It's me, Outlaw, from the Counter Cult Podcast. As you all know, the name that shall not be named. And yeah, we're just the redheaded stepchilds of the paranormal podcast world. Everybody hates us or loves us. It don't matter.
Yeah, mostly hate, but yeah, a little bit of love in there. We bring the Andy Frisella attitude to the paranormal and conspiracy world.
Yeah, we're recording on Sunday, so if by the time this gets out, it's going to be Happy New Year's for everyone and wishing everyone the best. So anyway, I got my co-hosts here, Dick and Maddie. How are you doing?
Good.
Doing good, man.
And of course, we can't miss our awesome guest that we have tonight, and this is going to be a pretty good episode, so stay tuned. This is Kenny. Kenny, how are you doing, man?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on, guys. A little under the weather, but I got a little time for y'all for sure.
He's the warrior.
Yeah, man. I got the vid, dude, from somebody. Good stuff.
Somebody was sharing. They were sharing is caring, you know.
Third time
Maddie.
the world's tried to take, you know.
We actually have some cool shit coming this coming year. Outlaw's working on a website. We just got a TikTok up and running. The TikTok will after the first of the year, we'll be sharing on TikTok. I'm actually looking at releasing the videos on Rumble. Rumble's a hero for censor, freedom of speech and censor free, it's a censor free platform. I guess to a certain extent for right now until the Canadian government steps in. But Rumble seems to be pretty cool right now, and so we're gonna put our shit up on Rumble. And also we have some special hats that you can find on the Discord page. If you're interested in one of our hats, one of our embroidered hats with the Counter Cult work logo, hit me up on Discord. We can get you one of those sent out. For everything else, we still using TeePublic. And I believe that's all I've got on the deets. So tonight, our special guest is Kenny Thibodeau. He's also known as StarFox Media on YouTube. Kenny, if you want to go ahead and plug your show in right here, and then we'll get to talking Dogman.
No, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, no. So long story short is I'm a journalist, but also a videographer and graphics designer. My YouTube, which is just lowercase s StarFox _ media, is a spot where I'm able to put up the majority of my creations that YouTube is cool with, obviously. As a videographer, just recently I've been doing a ton of Dogman stuff, but I also just did a Jeremy Swayman video too. So it is important for my audience to understand that I need an area to put out creations and content. That's where all the Dogman content right now, video-wise, I've put up is listed up on there. But also, I'll send you that Facebook link to my private group, the 207 one, and that's where I post pretty much all the evidence that I want to give people a platform. And the reason I say that is there's one gentleman right now from Tennessee. We're trying to figure out if he just killed coyotes himself or if his story's true, because he sent us like a picture of literally it's definitely a decent sized pack of coyotes that I and others can't figure out whether he just shot them and he's a sick person and is trying to tell us an extravagant story, or if his story is true. But outside of him, everything else I have personally Dogman related, unless it's been told to me not to be posted, is posted on that group, whether it's known tracks or things we've debunked or images that we haven't been able to debunk, etc. Those two areas the most prevalent for anyone that's interested in seeing what I'm doing with the Dogman aspects or interviewing and interacting with eyewitnesses and stuff.
Yeah. And if you will too, Kenneth, if you want to, if you'll hit up our general shit page and post those links, because I know those guys will be interested in checking out that Facebook page you're talking about. We have many subjects we cover too, so that's completely cool with our audience too.
Awesome.
And just said something. I've got to hit on it before we get too deep in the conversation. What's the deal with the coyote hunter?
All right. So, the deal with him is he's trying to say that he stepped outside later during the evening and heard a ton of howling, like the coyotes. And he said all of a sudden it sounded like something was taking it to them, that it went from a normal type sound to like they were interacting and getting the crap kicked out of them. And then he said, as he stepped out a little bit more to kind of head towards the area, he was seeing very large black, like wolf upright shadows in the forest around him. And Tennessee is a hell of a hot spot, but the thing is, like I said, unfortunately, people are liars and prefabricators, but he said that he saw the shadows in the forest, so he didn't really feel like checking the area until the next morning, went out, and that's when he found like the pack of coyotes. And he sent us pictures, and like I said, I don't know enough, but someone did potentially say that it looked like it exploded from the inside, which could mean that would be caused by a bullet or something. I don't know. So we just don't want to necessarily put his pictures up in our group and be like, hey, this occurred in Wolf County, Kentucky, near Tennessee, etc., and give him a platform if he really all them and he's lying about his stories.
I will tell you just from experience, because I do hunt coyotes too here. It's a big thing with the farmland. And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter. You 100 of them today and tomorrow there'll be more. But one thing that I tend to, most of, you would really, I mean, the coyotes are tough. And a lot of the times, like we like to tan our own hides and stuff. So we like to use either, like a buckshot, if we're calling them in, it's going to be close, or a smaller caliber rifle, like a 223 AR-15. I know that's everybody who's not familiar with guns, which our crowd is, but everybody who's not familiar with guns, it's not some big, ugly, blow your head off thing. It puts a tiny hole through something. It's like literally like a little hole puncher. People actually use that. The AR-15 platform to hunt the coyotes because it doesn't damage the fur as bad. It's just a tiny little pinhole. So what you're talking about, now I haven't seen the pictures and I'd love to see them.
Yeah, I'll dump them up in the Discord once we're done here.
I'd like to take a look at it. I mean, I know from experience these guns will do. I mean, unless you're shooting one with a 50 cal BMG or you're shooting them with shotgun slugs, you're not going to see a lot of visual damage.
One of these literally looked like it just was like from like the inside. But like I said, I don't specialize in that stuff. I mean, I specialize in journalism and documenting and speaking to people. So
that's why it's cool to get minds together, man. Because that's one thing I do.
And have people that specialize in stuff.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's super good to know, man. Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah. If you'll shoot them over, I'd love to see those, man, because.
Yeah, no, for sure, man.
That's something I'm, like I actually even hand load my own cartridges, for hunting. Would depend on what I'm hunting, would depend on what cartridge I'm using and loading for, but I make hand loads for every caliber that I keep, all of the ammunition that I use in hunting, aside from shotgun shells until about February, which I'll be loading even those by myself then. I hand load all my stuff. So I'm really familiar with the ballistics and what they do to these animals. So least weigh in on it for you. That sounds pretty crazy.
No, that's good to know, man. Thanks, dude. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely, that's one of the more tame. I've had some pretty gnarly stuff, but the important thing is when you're documenting things is people don't realize that it's very important to speak to everybody. And no lie, probably 60% of my encounters are very similar. Someone driving home later in the evening, maybe in the afternoon, down a back road, just enjoying their day. And they see, it could be a type 1, type 2, could range a little bit in size or how it looks, but they see it run across a road in a hunched over fashion on 2 large bent back legs with a shaggy tail and off into the forest. And people are like, well, that's not that exciting. And that's the problem is you shouldn't be looking at that as exciting. That's huge because that's more information, how they're looking. It's another area to be pinged on a map that paints a picture of areas where potentially things are occurring. And I mean, I think that's a huge problem. Like on YouTube, why some people, I mean, I don't put out the longest content and things like that.
I love your graphics.
Thanks. And I hope others will understand that the point of it is to get the person's story out there, not have them prefabricate it or make it longer just for views. If your story was like I just said, a 3-minute interaction real quick, well, that's your story, man. And the reason you're there is to tell your story, not exaggerate and be like, oh, well, this happened. Like everyone wants to hear the story of, oh, well, we're fishing out near Lake Texacoma and all of a sudden while we're in the canoe, this massive wolf man like Jason just raises out of the water. He's like, and I start beating on it with a paddle. You know what I mean? Like, sure, there might be some stories like that in between here or there that are actually legitimate and real. But you're going to find that a lot of those stories aren't credible or...
Well, that's what I liked about you because it seems like all the stories, like from what we've spoken, although we've got to speak to each other, the stories that you get, that you try, it seems like you go to every end to try to verify the story, whether it be like we were talking about the ballistics or like your friend who does the tracking, looking at the tracks and the castings, it seems like you go into pretty good, you lay out a pretty good expense trying to make sure that it's legitimate and verified.
No, I appreciate that. Super important to do that because first off, you only really get one chance or so in life in general to be considered credible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are entitled to make mistakes and can be misled and things like that. Like that doesn't take away from credibility. But what helps with credibility is that you just make sure that the things you post and things like that have been, sent to other people and potentially been verified to the best extent. And then you just paint a picture with that and you don't really try to influence people into believing or not believing. You just try to present what it is that's occurring. And I've never had any paranormal activities. I've never seen anything. I've never even seen a UFO. Do I believe the Dogman exists? My honest 100% of the answer is I do not know. But do I believe that people, like I've said, since 500 BC, including Alexander the Great, have reported seeing these creatures and have names for them? Like the Greeks had certain names for these tribes of dog people that lived in northern Africa and also India that couldn't speak. They would yip and make noises, but they could like speak with sign language and things like that. And they would wear like raggedy type clothes and things. And it's just really strange for a culture such as the Greeks and things that at that point in time to spend effort and things on manuscripts. It was not necessarily frowned upon, but they were a very war driven, conquering type culture. So being an author and things like that was, yes, important to document in history, but they didn't just take kindly to prefabricated stories. Like if you look at what the Greeks documented, it's been documented by other cultures as well. They only documented things that pretty much occurred. It's just interesting, like I said, to have prominent figures in their culture speak of that. And if people want to be like, okay, well, blah. All right. Well, Christopher Columbus also speaks of seeing upright bipedal dog-like creatures that he was also warned about from indigenous cultures that were already here. Okay, well,
and hearing you talk about it, I think about Anubis.
I was just going to get to that as well. So you got the Egyptians now, and Anubis looks a lot alike to what people report of Dogman. No, it's interesting, and as I said, I can't say that I believe in it, but like I can definitely say I believe in the aspect that people are seeing something. And I'm a person of science, so if I see something with my own eyes, obviously then you've seen that. But not being able to see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it means that you subjectively and objectively should always approach something and not just put, because someone sends you a large unknown print, a stamp of, oh, this proves the Dogman exists. I don't know. I'm trying to step back and bring all that evidence here and be like, all right, well, if it doesn't exist, for example, there was a case in South Carolina. A guy gets up early in the morning, goes outside, realizes his truck's sitting strange. As he gets near the front of the truck more, his front 2 tires and axles have been bent right out, and it looks like something's been chewing all over his truck, and there's like this saliva and slob on the front grill of his truck. So he calls the local sheriff calls the local sheriff who comes over. I actually cover this in my book. Sheriff comes over. He's like, what the heck? They find unknown large, like canine type prints around there. And also there's this field near this swamp area where these people live that just has all these carcasses of animals just thrown all in there, ripped apart, not fed on, just thrown everywhere, which is a very common thing with the Dogman. And I'll touch on that in a second. So they end up bringing in the forensic unit and they swab the saliva on the front of the truck, and it's unknown canine DNA. Obviously, the most likely is aware these exist, so they know what the DNA level is. But the fact that to the public it's unknown means it's not registered on the public database of canine. So made that. I guess that would be one of the examples I would use to people when they're like, oh, well, it's not canine based, or it's not. Then there's some cases like that, though, where they're finding fur, they're finding blood and things that are listing as unknown canine. And if you look at the tracks as well, they have canine type pads. So that's why I look at it in the aspect of potentially being part of the canine family. But back to what I was saying about with the field, any predators are hypochondriacs, meaning whether it's a tiger or a great white shark, they can't afford to hurt themselves unless they're potentially a pack animal. And even if you're a pack animal, if you're not pulling your load, the pack could get rid of you. If you look
and
at
even
tigers,
eat you in some cases,
Yes, in India, people wear the masks on the back of their head because it makes it look like the tiger, you're looking right at the tiger, so it's hesitant to attack you. And great white sharks too, same thing, up from beneath or behind. Because if a predator gets hurt, they can't feed themselves. They're going to. If a tiger, which is a solo hunter, breaks its leg, how the heck is it going to catch something now unless it can feed on people and things? But if a deer hurts itself, it can bed down for a bit and eat grass around it, drink the water, and heal itself and still survive. For a predator to throw animal parts that could be consumed all around makes zero sense. That's not normal predation behavior, because animals kill if they're hungry because they can't risk being hurt. Like a mountain lion is not just going to go take down a big moose and just leave it and just shred it all apart. It's going to eat everything because it just wasted all that energy and its potential existence in trying to take that down.
Yeah.
So almost every Dogman case, there really isn't predation. It's ripping heads off of things. It's strewing like intestinal parts around. Basically just kind of like trying to mark their territory, more or less. There's even been cases of strange setups of bone structures. So like in Yellowstone right now, there's like a weird boneyard that people can't really seem to justify because no known predators just can continuously bring something back to one area, but it's not like they're ripped apart either. They're just like set up there. It's this weird animal type like boneyard. And certain animals do that, like octopuses. There's been documented cases where they decorate the front of their caves and things that they live in with like the shells of oysters they've eaten and like starfish and things. And they orchestrate it, basically decorating their home.
Like the Predator,
Yes,
the movie.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I've actually seen a couple pictures where, that's the vibe. That's what I kind of like felt of when I saw that. Like in Wisconsin off of Bray Road, there's the police bulldozed it recently, but there was all these mounds that were found with like animal parts and bones, and there was these trees where it was all set up strangely and stuff. And I don't know, Dogman are reported to be extremely smart. It's tough to tell because some of the documented cases I've heard of people saying that they've seen them wearing like a bone type crown on their head, which is quite interesting. I don't know if that would signify something in their culture or existence.
Well, you've seen in the depictions of Anubis, even Anubis was adorned.
Yes, which is super strange. I mean, you got people saying that there's one gentleman from Alaska I spoke to is coming home doesn't even believe in any of this stuff. There was a large caribou thrown in the middle of the road that had been freshly. There was no way he could just like run it over. And as he was looking at it, trying to potentially move it out of the way, he looked like maybe 15, 20 feet away, and he saw Dogman looking at him right from like the tree line. And that's just one of the cases of them potentially trying to set a trap. There's a couple of women in Wisconsin that claim that they threw something out in front of the car, or something hit the car, so they stopped to get out to see what it was. And that's what I mean about people thinking that because a rock or a branch is thrown, that it has to be a Sasquatch. That's not true, because in numerous Dogman cases that people have reported seeing carrying sticks, using sticks for things, throwing rocks at people. So, I mean, if they have hands, just like a Sasquatch does, and they are intelligent enough to try to open your door handles, open your windows, things like that, then they're obviously going to be smart enough to throw a rock at you. I mean, that's not
well.
really,
And one thing I can say subjectively, just from the surface, if they do exist, they obviously are intelligent, just as a Sasquatch is, because we don't have one.
Of course, 100%. People don't understand how intelligent just generalized animals are. I mean, I have a pet squirrel, and just from interacting with her, people would be like, "Oh, it's a stupid squirrel," but man, she's so smart, bro.
Squirrels are extremely intelligent.
I think humans, we're literally one of the only animals that think we're better than other animals. So I think the majority of us completely automatically assume that an animal is stupid because they can't use, computers such as you and I. But like, I mean, I know for a fact, if I had to stay outside in winter all by myself, like some of these stray cats around here, dude, no way, man, I could do that, bro.
Well, and I can tell you from a hunter's point of view, obviously you've got some of your rednecks that may think that, but from a hunter's point of view, I mean, our goal when we're hunting is to try to outsmart the animal. And I can tell you, any trips home without an animal, that every animal I've ever hunted has intelligence. I mean, it's not like I just walk out there and one.
Yes.
It's a game of, can I outsmart this animal?
Yes. Now picture the apex predator that has to be a little bit smarter, not a little bit smarter, but a little bit more sneaky than the deer or the moose or something. Just any predator they're not necessarily smarter, but they have to be a little bit sneakier to succeed. I mean, I think I saw like wolves are considered one of the more successful hunters. Yeah. And I think I saw something like they're only 40% of the time successful. I could be incorrect, but I think I saw that. It's not like it's 100% like you're going to get food, like you said. Yeah. You have to think of ways to be sneaky, man. Like, send the young ones in to scare them off where the adults are hiding in the back behind rocks, etc. Like, just different.
You can see coyote videos where people are coyote hunting, where they do just that, of just what you're saying. They will send. It may not be the weakest or a weak one, but they won't all come at the exact same time ever. There could be a pack running around of 20, and you're not going to see all of them at the same time. You'll see one or two at a time.
It's funny you say that, because that's what happens with wolves and coyotes with domesticated dogs, because they look at domesticated animals as weak and basically selling out that you're being hand fed by humans. So they will come up and act as if they want to play with the dog, and they'll lead the dog off to follow them. And unfortunately, I've seen numerous videos on YouTube where people are not paying attention to their pets, dude, outside, and should not be leaving their domesticated dog in wolf territory. But they'll do that literally, and the dog will follow the coyote or the wolf out there, and bam, dude, all of a sudden 5, 6, 7, boom, 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 they just drill it, and then they just pull it off, and then that's that, man. And coyotes and all of them use that tactic.
Yes.
It's definitely, the dogmen definitely are using those type of tactics to have things. I mean, there's, at least 15 different cases I have where people say that they swear that the dogman is like trying to wave them down on the side of the road, that as it's standing there, it's trying to like get their attention, and they're obviously like, I'm not stopping. But as they try to speed by, the thing like jets at them and is trying to like get into their car and stuff like that.
I've heard a couple of those stories as well.
So yeah, there's definitely got the, intellect there. And I personally have a theory that I think dogmen they're not dumb. So you're going to probably, just like with people, you're going to have bad people and you're going to have good people. I think the majority of the dogman species doesn't hunt people. I think the ones that would be the ones that would be like the lone wolves, kind of, that have been kicked out of like their pack, like the assholes. I mean, like a lone wolf would be the more apt to go person probably than, for example, like a pack of wolves that's capable of going to take down the caribou. So I think these lone wolves or the lone dogmen that are known to be troublemakers or not be, like, respectful of the tribe, or basically, if you're taking people enough, what's going to happen? We're going to come looking for you, correct? It's the way the human species is. So if dogmen are real and are smart, then they're trying to open doors and things. Okay. So they are intelligent, and they have to know that if they continuously take people, it's going to be documented. And at some point in time or another, we are going to come look for them. There's already cases of people seeing large enough military groups armed to the T, literally in the middle of nowhere, bro. Where they're not doing just like a training drill, and they don't talk to the hunters or anything. They just walk by them. But I think the ones that are taking the people are like the asshole ones. And there's a couple cases, like the gentleman from North Carolina in Petrica State Park, where he saw 4 of them. What I'm trying to get at is that I think the ones that are doing the taking of people are grouping up together. And I think that's why there's such a large spike or in these areas of what's going on. I think those
like
are ones
the
that
LBL and stuff.
Yes, because in the South American culture and also the Latin-based cultures, you have, so the females, they have different names for it, but basically the female dogmen are not really the aggressive ones. I guess they just are ones that are trying to like raise their pups and stay away. In their culture, it's the males that have the jet red eyes and the jet black ones that are like taking the people. And almost every encounter that I've recorded that involves a jet black dogman with red eyes, it's always an aggressive one. Like they're stalking them. They're trying to lean out from behind a tree and set up an ambush point and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. If you look at it from subjectively, like you were talking, we were talking before we started recording, people that subscribe to the Lycan theory, or then some people that subscribe to just it being a biological cryptid, it is a biological animal. It could also be, like the coyote, which is, they hunt, but they're also an opportunistic predator. So if the opportunity presents itself, such as, a hiker or something like that, if they had that mindset, it's all hypothetical, but if they had that mindset, it's not hard to think that they would be an opportunistic hunter as well if they didn't have to.
Of course. If you catch somebody, it was just until recently you were able to carry firearms in national parks and things like that. So it's almost as if it's just like a free buffet, as messed up as that is to say. But if the is aware of that and they were allowing people to literally walk into national parks where they were potentially aware that something like that existed, and they were not allowing you to carry a way to protect yourself.
Yeah.
It's definitely not good.
Dude, if I'm alive, I'm packing.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That being said, it's probably safer there than you are in Chicago. If you look at it from that point of view, like opportunistic, just opportunistic. But you and I had talked, I guess we talked a couple of weeks ago. We were mentioning the LBL, some of the LBL, material that we've seen on YouTube and stuff, and some from credible and some from not so credible sources. But one thing is for sure, we were talking about, I was telling you about seeing the bunker there with the door ripped off of it. Mm-hmm. And the literally, we know that it had surveillance there and that they had a fence around a little base trailer that they worked out of there at one point, and it still has the signs and stuff on the fences and stuff. It's all in rubble now pretty much, but compared to what, obviously it once was, but they had a reason for being there. And I think that, you mentioned the Tony Merkel. I think it was Tony Merkel. We were talking about the farm, the Quantico farm here in Virginia, that little story. It's not hard for me to think if they do exist, that our would not only know about them, but maybe even be using them for experimental purposes.
Yeah, 100%. If you look back, so definitely now they've probably been able to potentially get their hands on. I don't think they could catch a Sasquatch because I think are too level-minded. A dogman is smart, but it still seems to like and stuff. So I feel like you set a trap, it knows it's a trap, but it's still like yum, 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 T-bone steak.
Yes. I've seen coons like that. Raccoons, I've trapped before. Raccoons, that they've seen like I set the same trap in the same spot. They've seen their buddies get caught, but still you put a little cat food and marshmallows in one of those things. They can't resist it. They're going after it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty optimistic, like you were saying, that the definitely got their hands on them now, which I think could be why there's different versions of what they're seeing, from mixing in like the Klickitat ape cat that looks like a Dogman ape type of cat type creature. So yeah, they're probably mixing around. I mean,
it wouldn't surprise me if they were mixing these things.
During the Manhattan Project, Dr. Lauren Donaldson and Dr. Barr were hired to try to experiment on animals, and Dr. Donaldson actually created the Donaldson trout, which is the most versatile trout in the world that can survive in cold, warm water. And he admitted, as so did Dr. Barr, 3 different times, about experimenting on apex predators. They didn't specify what they were, but they had escaped, and they said that they got the majority of the specimens back. And this was around the time they were teaching dolphins how to non-lethally harpoon people that were potentially like Russian spies coming into nuclear areas. So the dolphins would come with like a little harpoon and spike you in the armor, and it would blow up like a balloon and pull you to the surface with a tracking beacon on it. And that's when the soldiers would be waiting for you. They were working on that over in Washington State. And you have Plum Island too, obviously. And then you have Zeli Nuexus Rathis, which is the German World War II incident. I think it might have been the 84th or the 82nd Infantry Unit came into Zeli Rathis, which was a small village that had been overtaken by the Nazis. I don't think they wanted to be, but they were. And the Nazis were no longer there, but they had a huge town hall that was still there. And when they went inside, they could see that it was flooded on the lower levels, and also concrete had been poured around certain spots. Yeah. So the general was like, well, obviously something is down on the lower levels that the Nazis or the SS, whatever, is trying to cover up. So he called in 3 Navy divers and hooked them up to tethers. And after an hour or so, 2 of the tethers came back with no divers. And then the 3rd diver came back and was flipping out. And he said that down there was all these strange like pentagrams and things carved into the floor and the walls in some of the rooms. And that there was all these decapitated bodies and limbs ripped off. And then in some of the other rooms, there was these people sitting in chairs with like insides hanging out, which obviously sounds about Nazi-ish type stuff. And then he said in another room, there were these looked like men, but they had like dog heads, wolf's head, and one person even had like a goat's head. And he said he couldn't tell if it was from the water moving around, but he said he swore it looked like they were trying to get out of their restraints. The following day, the British military showed up, and the Americans handed off that area to them, and the British flattened the place. And then that diver was released from the military. And then, the case of Zeli Nexus Rathis has pretty much been squashed ever since then.
What happened to him afterwards? Are you familiar? Or?
He just kind of disappears, man. I'm not saying they got rid of him. You don't really hear from him, man. You don't hear him talk about it. You don't hear his story. You just, read those documents. You see the documents, and then
he's fucking island somewhere.
Oh, yeah, or in an insane asylum or something like like you were saying. So you have that case, and then you have the case of Stalin, where he invested a ton of money basically trying to build a super army of apes, where he was trying to inseminate women with a male chimp sperm and vice versa, trying to inseminate the female chimps. And I guess from what I read, they didn't necessarily have enough time. They only were able to do it a couple times, but it was non-successful. So Stalin stopped funding it. But the reason I brought that up is just experimentation on like animals and things like that have been going on since World War II.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, that was actually what I was alluding to when I was talking about that case that I heard on one of those other podcasts up at the farm. Mm-hmm. I was alluding to maybe they're trying to use these things as tools of war.
Of course, man. Think, dude, what the hell would like in Dog Soldiers, what would you really do if a pack of dogmen or werewolves were coming at you? And that's actually kind of the rumor now in the area of the Klickitat ape cat, is a lot of people think that they purposely let that out because it like stays around that area and they feed it and stuff too, but it's kind of like guardian of them, or like instead of having a soldier out there walking the perimeter, you now have like a 600 to 800 pound ape wolf mix that's just pretty much able to be trained enough by you where it's obedient enough, but it's always going to keep people out of your area, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you went up there and just bring you back to them and then no one knows where you went. Like,
yeah, no, it's totally fathomable with a lot of the things we talk about. It falls right in line.
Yeah, for sure.
And yes, I can see Stalin doing that, making these hybrids like a donkey,
That's 100%, man.
It's not hard to, you can make a donkey from a horse and mule or whatever, but the donkey itself can't breed. I can see our DNA being enough. If you bridge that so many times, what can you make? You know what I'm saying?
No, it's truthful. Yep. 100%, my friend.
Kind of like breeding. We, in the field, there was, we had these dominant plants, which were photoperiod to the sun, and they found another species of duralis, which was typically found in cooler places like Siberia and Canada, in certain places like that where it's cooler. It wasn't photoperiod. It would vegetate itself for so many days and then it would automatically flower. Then they would take those and breed those with the sativa, get the potency up. You have the best of both worlds. Now you have a plant with high potency that's not a photoperiod plant, that buds on its own after 30 days. That is stuff that's on our level that we know how to do as civilians. And, they always say they're 30, I think the golden rule was 30 years ahead of us. And we've been doing that since, the late 90s. It's not hard to me to fathom them being able to do that with human and animal DNA. And even if you're biblical, if you're religious, even in the Bible, talking about angels and humans mixing together and then humans and animals mixing together in biblical times. And that may even be the birth of Anubis in that, I don't know.
Well, even there was a saint back in the day, Saint Christopher. He's actually depicted as having a dog head. So, looks exactly like a dog man. So who knows, man? Anything's possible.
Well, and there were angels and demons that were supposedly had heads like dogs,
Mm-hmm.
So that's, once again, you can look at it from a religious point of view and see, at least grounds to where something like that could exist.
100%. That's like what you always got to try to subjectively and objectively look at things when you're gonna, put like a stamp of approval or something on it.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Be subjectively open and objectively skeptical.
It's just the way it is. Some people get upset with that, but I'll listen to anybody, but I'm not going to document somebody's case unless I have the date. It doesn't have to be March 31st, but I need to know, was it 2002? It's better if you can tell me it was April 13th, 2020. It doesn't have to, but yeah, I definitely need like a time. Times are nice. I don't need your name, but I need to know date so that I can pin it into my map and see other encounters that happened during that. And I need to know the location so that I can also pin it and, names or whatever. But those are the important aspects, because you can't just say, oh, well, a few years ago. The only problem with that is, what is a few years? I understand as time goes by, people potentially forget things in our minds, create false memories. But the thing is, if something traumatic or something good happens in your life, you would think that you would have a pretty good understanding of, maybe not the exact time of 4:22 p.m., but you would know in 2021, I went to the Boston Bruins and watched them win a Stanley Cup or something. Maybe that's just objective or too much subjective thinking, but I would never call people out about that, but I won't document that because it's not going to help in the long run. Where sitting down,
whereas if somebody has a time and date and you pin it and you find out that there have been 3 other instances in that area,
then it's useful. And if you're a biologist or you specialize in animal behavior, predation, whatever. The problem is, man, not to diss anybody like ourselves do, but no one really in the scientific field takes us serious. So we're all just backyard researchers. And a backyard researcher is never going to be taken serious by the scientific community. It's just the way it is.
And if they did, I'm sure that they've been commandeered by our So
yes, goal is to just get somebody like Jeff Meldrum or to just sit down and really just look at it. Like I'm trying to see if Les Stroud will look at it with Survivor Man, because, you know, he same thing. He doesn't necessarily believe in Bigfoot, but he's like me. He's had some strange kind of stories told to him, and also looks at the data out there. So he's objective and objective. So I'd like to try to get somebody like him to
he is great. Talk. He is great. I love his stuff. I love Missing 411, Apolitis. I love some of his stuff. You know, he doesn't come out and say it's this or that, but he leaves it, you know, he does present the evidence and the, you know, what criteria among his list that he's, you know, come up with that have been met, you know, checked off on each case. And I see where you're coming from. You know, we have no choice but to be backyard researchers, because like I was saying, if there was a scientist that did know about this or did do research and made findings on it, I'm sure their research and their talent has been commandeered by our to either cover it up or advance whatever agenda they have for the, you know, for the Dogman, for, you know, for their own nefarious purposes.
Exactly.
So that's why we're important, though. I think that's one key takeaway there. Optimistically looking at it is that we're the only source for that research that's going to be available to the public.
Which is why it's also, just super important to make sure that, you know, you're presenting it in a good aspect and just making sure it's put together well and that it's easily accessible to the public.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I look forward to seeing some more of your material too.
I appreciate it.
Helping you with some of the voiceover stuff you do. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, to anyone that would be interested in that, man, doing the narration aspects, that's a good way to get a plug for you guys too, but it's also a way to just collaborate.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, man, I could just do research all the time and stuff. Unfortunately, it's not always like that. Right now, I'm trying to look for some, you know, part-time stuff and I can do, but I definitely have some free time at the moment and things like that. So make sure you let me know. And if you need help with anything or any opportunities, make sure to let me know.
Oh, absolutely, dude. You're welcome. You're welcome. Come back anytime with any cool stories, research you just hit us up and let us know on that, man. Maddie, you still with us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't see your pretty face there. So I hadn't heard nothing from Maddie. What do you think about it all, Maddie?
I mean, there's enough historical evidence, you know, the Cynocephaly from like Herodotus, Greek historian. He traveled around and gathered all sorts of tales. And then of course, like Outlaw was saying, we've got Saint Christopher, who started off as a dog-headed man.
King
really,
Lycan.
It's something that I find very interesting. I just don't know where exactly it falls.
Yes, me too, man. Me too, friend. Super strange, like you were saying. It's just so odd. Like, that's just such a weird thing to make up. I mean, even at that point in time to be able to make up, because it's not like someone could just text somebody in America from Greece and be like, hey, you seen this thing? And like having the same description, whereas now you can, you know, I could text you and be like, hey man, I saw this thing, and you could be like, now we see the same thing. But back then you couldn't do that. You know, if I wanted to come talk to you and I lived over in Australia and you were in the United States, I'll see you in like 5 years on the boat if I make it. Like,
yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And I think it's also interesting when you look at, I don't consider dogmen werewolves or were-type creatures to be even like relatively close to the same thing, because it seems like the like classical quote-unquote lycanthropy is more of like, you almost like the skinwalker stuff, right? Like you would have to wear the skin of the animal to be imbued with,
or the ornament or the belt, or
right.
Or something. Yes,
like wolf grease,
or there's even a genetic point of view from it too. You know, I was talking about like it's earlier. Like if you look at like old man's beard, you know, we talked about that before, Maddie. If you remember the old man's beard, I was talking to Chucky D. We all were talking to Chucky D about that. It's one of nature's great antibiotics. It's holistic. You know, it's natural. You go out and pick it. It's a lichen. It's called a lichen. It's an symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. It's an algae and a fungus together. So it makes you wonder too, you know, could there be a genetic link to it as well? Rather than, like you're saying, there could be a number of things. You know, we're not here because we don't believe in the paranormal. We question it. You know, we want to, that's what we talk about. You know, so there are a lot of theories, and I think both those are interesting theories because both of them are extremely possible. You could have a genetic lichen, you know, being, well, I'm not saying it's 100%, you know, possible, but It's not hard to believe, being that we have, just like the other day, one of my favorite movies, Tremors. Actually, I talked to you, Kenneth, that day when my son and I were watching it, and I had this little revelation hit me. We were talking about we were watching Tremors, and I got to thinking, Addie he collects tarantulas. My wife got me into collecting scorpions now. Well, tarantulas and scorpions alike are arachnids, but they use hairs to sense vibrations to feel out their prey. So I got to thinking, it's not unfathomable. Yeah, it's a fiction movie, but it's not unfathomable to think that there could be a subterranean species like this that feels vibrations and hunts off vibrations. That, just like the arachnids do.
If you look at the cave systems and things like that, I mean, if it's been unexplored, like there's obviously some sort of potential life system in there that's going to be occurring. It's just the way life works and stuff like that. So, but like back to like what Maddie was saying, so bears and canines are a lot more closer related than people realize. There was a species that was not canine or bear. It was kind of like the tweener, and scientists are pretty optimistic, by the way, that its hips were set up, that it would have no problem being bipedal and quadrupedal as well. And it would have been around the same kind of frame and size of like a dogman. It's just interesting. So I'm not saying that that is what a dogman is, but there has been an animal in the history of existing that was basically a tweener. Just find that to be interesting.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Ursa, bear, and dog are closely related, kind of like a cat and predator cats, larger cats.
So like, correct me if I'm wrong with this too. Like hyenas, for example, like I think hyenas are more closely related to cats than canines, correct?
Yeah, but actually they're kind of a weird thing too, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they? They're kind of both.
Exactly. It's genetically already dispersed on its own. It's pretty interesting. I just try to be smart when I present things and look at things like that and just show, like what we just spoke about. Like, all right, well, you look at a hyena. I mean, it looks like a dog, correct? By look wise, but then you break down the DNA and you realize it's not really either or. So when people say things like, oh, bear man, dog man, I think potentially they're seeing the same thing. Like, so when you have a little girl that said Mr. Bearman took me, that's like 2 or 3, and then you have another 2 or 3 year old saying Mr. Wolfman took me. I think it's the same potential being, because you have reports even from adults saying that they see Dogman that huge, like a bear, kind of like its size, like it's just jacked up kind of like a bear, but it's got the long shaggy tail and it has like the bent back kind of legs, but it's like the size of like a bear. So
yeah, it's and it's kind of corny, but it's kind of like in Jurassic Park. Nature finds a way. I think there are a lot of bridges, a lot of gaps that have been bridged in nature that we don't pay attention to, like we were just talking about, where these things are. It's not impossible to think that they had some traits of both species that they're related to. So, but anyways, man, I just, you guys got anything else y'all want to ask Kenneth, or?
I don't think so, man. I mean, plenty more, but this is going to have to be a second part.
No, definitely
doubt.
second part.
Yeah.
You can always, any questions you have, man, you can just send over Discord and same thing with Maddie and stuff. I'll send you guys the links to, the Facebook group.
Yeah, please do. In the pictures, I've got to see those coyote pics, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Send me a message on Discord right now so that as soon as I plug in my laptop and I'll see that and I'll plug that up in there. And I'll also send you guys my YouTube thread with the Dogman stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. And you can do it anytime you got cool pics, send them to us, except for but any other pics we're cool with.
Yeah, that's not really my swag anyhow.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I send them to Maddie and Outlaw every now and then, but we don't want to freak you out or anything, man. But no, seriously, Kenneth, we would love to have you to check in with us, come back on the show in the future, because like I said,
of course, anytime, man. Appreciate you guys. So questions or anything I can help with, man, make sure you reach out and stuff like that. And we're definitely going to be updating our website sooner than later, and we got like a documentary coming out, and we will be, working more on the Google Maps.
Too,
so
you good? Sorry, guys, for having a little bit of an audio issue, but
it's all good. But cool.
All right, cool. Is there anything else you guys want to add to this before we close out?
No, sounds good to me, my friend. Definitely keep in touch, and I'll send you everything here in a second. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We need to do this again.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you again.
Good. Yeah, man, Maddie, make sure you hit me up too, dude. I don't know if you're on Discord or not.
I am. I have a couple of things that I'm gonna send you.
Cool. Sounds good. I appreciate y'all.
You guys hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There you are.
Sorry about that. But anyways, what I was saying, yeah, definitely come back and check in with us, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you.
Hell yeah. I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for coming on, guys. Y'all ain't got nothing else. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm, and I will catch you on the next one.